Everyone, today we are going to discuss another special sense, that is the sense of sight. It is also known as vision. So, the organ that is responsible for vision is eye. After the completion of this lecture, you would be able to describe different layers that are present in the eyeball. It means you would be able to describe the structure of the eye and also the route that is taken by nerve impulses from the retina to the cerebrum. Here in this diagram you can see the eyeball. The eye is basically the organ of sight and it is spherical in shape. Its diameter is 2.5 centimeter and it is present in the orbital cavity supplied by optic nerve. The space that is present between the eye and the orbital cavity is occupied by adipose tissue. Adipose tissue means fatty tissue, and this fatty tissue along with bony cavity protects the eyeball. In humans, we have two eyes that are present at a distance, but for a proper vision we need their coordinated activities. When the two eyes they work in a coordinated fashion, we can see one image. It is also possible that we can see with only one eye, and this is called monocular vision. And when we see with both eyes, with two eyes, it is called binocular vision. A three-dimensional vision is impaired when only one eye is used. So for three-dimensional vision, we need both eyes. You can see different layers in this diagram. There are three major layers that are present in the eyeball. The outermost layer is a fibrous layer and it is made up of sclera and cornea. The middle layer is vascular layer and it is known as uveal tract. The uveal tract is further consists of choroid, ciliary body and iris. And the innermost layer is a layer of retina. Now first of all, what is sclera and cornea? Sclera and cornea forms the outermost layer. And sclera is basically white in color and it is present in the posterior and lateral aspects of the eyeball. So this is white in color, and anteriorly it is continuous with the cornea, which is transparent in color. Means it has no color, it is transparent. It consists of fibrous membrane that maintains the shape of the eye, and sclera gives attachment to the extrinsic muscles of the eye. So the sclera is basically a tough fibrous tissue that is white in color and present posteriorly and laterally, and anteriorly it is continuous with a transparent cornea. Anteriorly, the sclera continues as a clear transparent membrane, which is cornea. Basically the light rays they pass through the cornea to reach the retina, and cornea is basically a convex structure, and it is involved in refraction of the light, and this refraction is necessary to focus the light rays on the retina. And refraction means bending of the light, the straight waves of light that enters the eye. The first structure through which they have to pass is the cornea. So cornea is a convex structure. When the light rays pass through them, they are refracted, means there is bending of the light rays, and then these bended light rays can converge on the retina. Next layer is the inner to the sclera, there is choroid, a layer of choroid, and it lines the posterior 5/6 of the inner surface of the sclera. The choroid is extremely rich in blood supply and it is dark brown in color. When the light enters through the cornea and then the pupil, it stimulates the receptors which are present in the retina, and then this light is absorbed by the choroid. The light is then absorbed by the choroid. Then we have the ciliary body. Ciliary body, basically it's the anterior continuation of the choroid. The ciliary body is continuation of the choroid anteriorly. Posteriorly we have choroid, and when a choroid ends anteriorly, there is beginning of the ciliary body. Ciliary body consists of two types, basically two types of muscles. Ciliary muscles होते हैं इसमें, and then it has the secretory epithelial cells. Ciliary muscles are the smooth muscle fibers, and the smooth muscle fibers are of two types. These are the longitudinal smooth muscles as well as the circular smooth muscles. So when the circular smooth muscles contract, the ciliary body basically acts like a sphincter due to the presence of these circular smooth muscles. The lens is attached to the ciliary body. You can see here the attachment of the lens. So the lens is attached to the ciliary body through a suspensory ligament. Suspensory ligament, you can see in this diagram that the suspensory ligament ciliary body is attached to the lens through the sensory ligament. Now coming to the ciliary muscles. First, the ciliary muscles, when they contract or they relax, they change the shape of this lens. So the contraction and relaxation of the ciliary muscle is responsible for changing the shape of the lens. The epithelial cells, we have talked about that ciliary body consists of ciliary muscles as well as epithelial cells. So these epithelial cells, basically they secrete a fluid which is known as aqueous humor. Aqueous humor into the anterior segment of the eye. So anterior segment is present between the lens and cornea. In this anterior segment we have aqueous humor. The ciliary body is supplied by oculomotor nerve, which contains the fibers which are known as parasympathetic fibers, and stimulation of these parasympathetic fibers cause contraction of the ciliary muscles, and this contraction of the ciliary muscles makes the lens more globular and result in accommodation of the eye, so the eye can focus on near objects. Next is iris. Iris is this is the visible part of the eye, and it is extended anteriorly from the ciliary body. So the second layer, that is the uveal tract, basically it consists of uvea, it consists of vitreous body, then the ciliary body, and then this ciliary body extends anteriorly to form the iris, and the iris is present behind the cornea and in front of the lens. It divides the anterior, this iris basically divides the anterior segment of the eye into two chambers, which are the anterior and posterior chambers. It is a circular body that is composed of pigmented cells, right? Here I can you can see the iris. So in this diagram, in the above diagram, you can see on the inner side there is a pupil, and then pupil is surrounded by radial fibers, and these radial fibers are radial as well as there are circular fibers. Two types of muscles are present in the iris, which are the circular and radial fibers. This purple color, the purple color fibers you can see in this diagram, these are the fibers of iris. And then outside the iris there is ciliary muscle, and outside the ciliary muscle there is choroid, right? So this iris is composed of two types of smooth muscles. Number one is the circular, and other one are the radiating fibers. And in the center of this iris there is an aperture which is called pupil. Pupil is basically an aperture in the eye, or the hole through which the light rays enters the eye to reach to the retina. So the diameter of this pupil is controlled by the iris. How it is controlled? Basically the iris is supplied by parasympathetic as well as sympathetic nerves. Whenever the parasympathetic nerves are stimulated, there is constriction of the pupil, and whenever there is stimulation of sympathetic nerve fibers, the pupil dilates. Now the color of this iris is genetically determined. Basically, whenever there are more pigments are present, it becomes black to brown in color, and when less pigments are present, the color of the iris becomes blue. And in albinos we can see that they have there is no pigment in their eyes, so their eyes are blue in color. Next, in this diagram you can see the lens in the center. So the lens is basically present in front of the aperture, in front of the pupil. You can see the lens, then there are ciliary muscle fibers, and outside the ciliary muscle fibers, and in between the ciliary muscles and the lens there is a suspensory ligament, and then the outermost layer is the sclera. So the lens is highly elastic and it is biconvex. It lies immediately behind the pupil. It consists of fibers that are enclosed by a capsule, and it is attached to the ciliary muscle through suspensory ligament. The thickness is controlled by the ciliary muscle. The thickness of this lens is basically under control of ciliary muscles. Whenever the ciliary muscles contract, the lens moves forward and thickness of the lens increases. So now the lens can focus on the near objects, and this is called accommodation for near vision. The lens also causes refraction of the light rays, and the light rays which enters from outside through the cornea, and then they have these light rays has to pass through the lens, and the lens also causes bending of the light rays. This is the only structure in our eye that can change its refractory power. Otherwise, cornea cannot change its refractory power. The last layer, the innermost layer, that is the retina. So the innermost layer is retina. It is extremely delicate structure and is well adapted for stimulation by the light rays. So this is the only structure in the eye that contains photosensitive cells, which are the rods and cones, and there are many layers which are present in the retina, and these layers contains the nerve cell bodies as well as axons, and then on the outermost layer is made up of pigment cells that is attached to the choroid. The light sensitive cells which are present in the retina are the rods and cones, and when the rods and cones are stimulated, nerve impulses are generated. Retina lies about in the posterior and lateral part of the eyeball. Near the center of the posterior part, in this diagram you can see in the center of the retina there is a macula. You can see macula in the center, that is basically a thickened and deepened portion present in the center of the retina. This is called the macula, and in the center of the macula there is fovea centralis, and this fovea centralis is a yellow spot. This fovea centralis consists of only cones. There are no rods in the fovea. Towards the anterior part of the retina, anteriorly there are fewer cones but more rods. So most of the rods are present in the peripheral portion of the retina, and in the center of the retina there are cones, and we can see that in fovea centralis this area contains only cones. No rod is present in the fovea centralis. Again, in this diagram we can see a yellow area, the uppermost labeling optic disc. So what is optic disc? About 0.5 centimeter nasal to the macula there is an optic disc, and this optic disc is also known as blind spot, because this optic disc does not contain any rods and cones, so this area is not involved in vision. Optic disc is an area from where the optic nerve originate and moved out of the orbital cavity. So optic disc से आपकी ऑप्टिक नर्व आई बॉल से बाहर जाती है और इस एरिया में कोई रॉड्स एंड कॉन्स नहीं होते. सो दिस एरिया हैज़ नो लाइट सेंसिटिव सेल्स. This area is also known as blind spot. Here in this diagram you can see the rods and cones. The elongated cell, the nerve cell, is known as rod and cones are conical in shape. Blood supply, you can see here that the different arteries and veins in this diagram. So basically the blood supply of the orbital cavity of the eye is through the ophthalmic artery, which is a branch of internal carotid artery. This ophthalmic artery then divides into the ciliary arteries and into the central retinal artery. So that's the blood supply that's the arterial supply, and then again there is venous drainage through the central retinal vein and different small number of veins that empty into the deep venous sinus. Interior of the eye contains two segments. There are two segments in the interior of the eye. In this diagram you can see two segments, anterior segment as well as posterior segment. Anterior segment is present, it is basically a space that is present between the cornea and the lens, and this is further divided into anterior and posterior chambers with the help of iris. Both the anterior and posterior chambers, they contains a clear fluid which is known as aqueous humor, and we have already studied that this aqueous humor is produced by the epithelial cells of the ciliary body. So it is produced basically through the ciliary body, the epithelial secretory cells in the posterior chamber, and from posterior chamber it moves through the iris into the anterior chamber, and at the angle between the iris and cornea there is a canal of Schlemm, from where this aqueous humor is reabsorbed. So reabsorption of the aqueous humors took place in the anterior segment at the angle between the iris and cornea through canal of Schlemm, and from there this aqueous humor is taken up by the venous blood. So this aqueous humor is responsible for maintaining the intraocular pressure in the anterior segment of the eye, and this ocular pressure is 10 to 20. Normal ocular pressure should be 10 to 20 millimeter of mercury, and if it becomes greater than 20 millimeter of mercury, this results in production of glaucoma. The major function of this aqueous humor is basically to supply nutrients and to remove the waste products from those structures of the eye that does not have any blood supply, and these structures are lens and its capsule and the cornea. Now coming towards the posterior segment, behind the lens there is the posterior segment, and this is called vitreous body, and it contains a fluid that is jelly like substance which is also transparent and colorless. This vitreous body also maintains sufficient intraocular pressure to support the retina, and it also prevents the eye from collapsing. The eye keeps its shape because of the intraocular pressure that is exerted by the vitreous body as well as the aqueous humor. Next is the optic nerve. Optic nerve. In this diagram you can see the optic nerve. Initially you can see on the upper portion of this diagram you can see the nasal retina as well as the टेम्पोरल रेटिना। नेज़ल रेटिना आपके नोज़ की साइड पर होता है और टेम्पोरल रेटिना आपके टेम्पोरल बोन जो कि ईयर की साइड पर होती हैं बोन्स, ठीक है। तो टेम्पोरल रेटिना एंड नेज़ल रेटिना यू कैन सी इन दिस डायग्राम. So through the optic disc there the optic nerve begins, ठीक है. The optic nerve begins out of the eye through the optic disc. This optic nerve moves posteriorly and medially through the and it moves out of the orbital cavity through the optic foramen. Then these optic nerves, the optic nerves from the two eyes, they meet with each other at the optic chiasma. You can see in this diagram the optic chiasma. Optic chiasma is basically present above the pituitary gland, and at this optic chiasma the nerve fibers of the optic nerve from the nasal side of each eye, they cross over to the opposite side. We can see in this diagram that the nasal fibers of the optic nerve, there is crossing over of these fibers. ये fibers क्रॉस ओवर करके दूसरी साइड पे चले जाते हैं, जबकि टेम्पोरल साइड के जो फाइबर्स हैं ऑप्टिक नर्व में, जो टेम्पोरल साइड से फाइबर्स आ रहे हैं वो सेम साइड पर ही रहते हैं. दे डज नॉट क्रॉस ओवर टू द ऑपोजिट साइड. So optic chiasma is a place where crossing over of the nasal fibers take place. And from optic chiasma there is origination of the optic tract. So in optic tract there are two types of fibers, the nasal fibers from one eye and the temporal fibers from the other eye, right? So this is the optic tract. In this diagram, optic tract, the fibers from the optic tracts, they then relay in the thalamus, in the lateral geniculate body of the thalamus. This lateral geniculate body is present in the thalamus. The optic tract fibers, they go to the lateral geniculate body and then they relay there. They synapse with the cells, nerve cells that are present in the lateral geniculate body. From the lateral geniculate body, the fibers arises and they moves posteriorly and medially, and these fibers are known as optic radiations. These optic radiations then they terminate in the visual area, and this visual area is present in the occipital lobe of the cerebral cortex. So finally this the visual area is responsible for our vision. Thank you very much.